welcome to UC Today. I'm Senior Editor Tom Wright, and today I'm joined by Stuart Templeton, who is Head of UK at Slack. Thanks for joining us today, Stuart.
Good morning. Thanks for having us, Tom.
Thank you for being here. And I wanted to start actually by looking specifically at the UK. I know you recently reported some really solid growth figures in terms of revenue and also paying customers. Perhaps you could talk us through what's driving that for you.
Yeah, a few things. And I think some of it can hark back to before the pandemic, actually. I think pre or post pandemic, organizations of all shapes and sizes have had a similar challenge. Teams need to be connected. They need to be able to get their work done more effectively. And I think those trends still exist. They need to break down silos, take communication out of emails and put them into transparent channels. They also need to streamline their work, bring integrations into their communication tools to bring people, data and applications together. However, I do think the pandemic has amplified some of those channels. When we're remote, the need for connection, for example, is greater. And we're going to stay remote. According to research that we conducted with the Future Forum, the majority of us, the big majority of us, I think it's about 72.2%, want to remain hybrid. And only 11.6% of us want to go in a lot. So that need for connection is going to remain very much the case over coming quarters and periods. More importantly, though, in my mind, is the need for flexibility as to when we work. 93% of employees want flexibility as to when they work. And hence, post-pandemic, customers see this time as an opportunity, I think, to really seize the moment, to build a future that works for all employees. They need a channel-based architecture. They really need something like Slack as a digital HQ that enables connection, I guess, in a hybrid world. That also enables asynchronous work, because we're looking for that flexibility as to when we work. And I think that's fundamentally more important than we've seen before, and is very much part of driving our growth, yeah.
So obviously businesses in all industries have been working remotely over the last year or so, but are there any particular verticals you'd highlight as being sort of particularly keen to engage with Slack and driving some of that growth?
I think the short and honest answer is no, not really. I don't think there's a sector in particular that hasn't been fundamentally impacted and changed by this shift to remote working. I think every industry's had to rethink how they operate over the last 18 months. And many, we're pleased to say, have realized that Slack is the most powerful messaging app to help them through this transition period, I guess. And equally, from 40% of the FTSE 100, such as HSBC, Vodafone, Ocado, to small family businesses, we've seen millions of people around the world turning to Slack, I guess, to connect their teams and unify their systems and really drive their business forward. Maybe a couple of UK examples for you, Tom. One is Kooth PLC. I don't know if you know them. They're the UK's largest digital platform for mental health. They run entirely from Slack, on Slack, from coordinating marketing campaigns to supporting sales, product teams, collaborating with mental health practitioners. Kooth do it all on Slack, and hence are able now to support some 5 million people from a mental health perspective, which is quite staggering. But a very different industry is Man Group, the largest listed hedge fund. All of their users are on Slack. They've built integrations to their trade data, and it's given them transparency right across their business for their distributed teams. And we're proud that we were very instrumental in the way that they were able to shift to remote and in the future hybrid working. So no, I would say that we've been relevant to all sorts of industries over this time, Tom.
I think you maybe mentioned just then that the figure 40% of the FTSE 100 using Slack, which is obviously a huge amount of massive companies. Is there a particular focus for Slack on the larger enterprises at the moment?
I mentioned earlier that I think we're relevant and we're seeing growth in companies of all sizes, but the world's largest organizations are certainly a vibrant sector. As of the 30th of April, we kind of stated or released that 113 paid customers now have greater than $1 million of annual spend with Slack, which is up 45% year over year. So it's certainly vibrant. But equally, organizations of all sizes face the same challenge. How do they remain productive? How do they retain culture? How do they connect teams that are distributed? And how do they enable greater flexibility as to when people work. That said, maybe the bigger the company, the bigger the challenge, the bigger, the more entrenched the silos, the more silos there are. And that's why we've got a dedicated offering to large enterprises called Enterprise Grid, which really gives them the flexibility they need to ensure that Slack matches their business model and the governance and security requirements that they need.
So I wanted to change, I guess, topic a little bit now and talk about the collaboration market in general. It's obviously booming at the moment and has been over the last year or so, becoming an ever crowded market. How are you working to stay, I suppose, at the forefront and stand out?
Yeah, I think in a few ways, we'll see how many I come up with, possibly, Tom. But the first and foremost, the thing that comes to mind, first of all, is channel-based communication at scale, being able to really deliver on that, break down silos, bring work into organized, transparent channels right across an organization. And from what I hear from customers, we're really unique in our ability to actually deliver on that. Customers say that they're using other tools very successfully for video calling, perhaps direct messaging, but the business outcome is very different because they're not able to use channels at scale. And as an example, at Slack, we've got 156,000 paid customers. We have a Slack channel for the vast majority of those. And I'm not sure you could do that in a manageable way with other tools. And hence, without Slack, when work gets done, companies are defaulting to the lowest common denominator again, which is email. Maybe related to the above, I don't know. The second thing I would call out is user adoption and engagement, and we're very proud of this. We did a comparison not long ago with a big retailer, a household name that you would most certainly know, and we saw 56 times more adoption and 200 times the number of channel messages, 200 times the amount of channel engagement compared with the other tool. So, for example, Slack's 10,000 users and 60,000 channel messages compared to 60,000 users and 300 channel messages with the other tools. So very significant difference user adoption. Thirdly, we really enable change in how people work. And I think we enable the future of work. And companies that really want to undergo a genuine digital transformation and to embrace this future of work are choosing Slack. Some other tools are kind of focusing more on the migration of existing office experiences into the remote world. But because of our platform depth, integrations and workflows, we're able to more significantly change how people work and kind of take the friction out of work.
And I wanted to pick up on a couple of things you mentioned there, actually. The first is there's a growth in the amount of developers and third parties building integrations within Slack. How important is that for you in terms of kind of creating, I suppose, an ecosystem with which people can all plug into the platform?
Yeah, it's really important, Tom. I think one of the reasons we've been so successful is the breadth and depth of the ecosystem of application integrations. There's currently over 4,450 different applications on the Slack app directory. We've got over 850,000 custom apps. Really significant numbers. And interestingly, you talked about the ecosystem of products and developers. Over 925,000 daily registered developers are building on the Slack platform. You may or may not be aware, not long ago, I guess you may not be aware that you don't need to be a developer. Not too long ago, we announced and released our Workflow Builder, which is a no-code visual point-and-click kind of tool that fundamentally allows anybody to automate routine tasks in Slack so that you can bring applications with no coding into the experience. Our team, we're making a shift towards business outcomes. As we move to more flexible working as to where and when we work, we need to be clear about what we want to achieve as a business and then be less concerned about when people are working. And as a result of that, we move into kind of 2-week sprints. What do I want to do as a client experience person at Slack over the next 2 weeks? How am I going to do it? And we built a workflow using Workflow Builder to kind of track these 2-week sprints so that we can hold ourselves accountable as to whether we achieved what we wanted to do so. So yeah, I think the ability to deliver on the future of work is very much related to the ability to integrate applications, people, workflows into a single place.
Okay. And the second point I wanted to pick up on was, well, you touched on it. I think we were talking about Slack Connect, allowing businesses or different businesses to communicate with each other via Slack. I assume we're moving a lot of very messy email chains in the process, but what kind of impact are you seeing that have in terms of, productivity, business to business?
Yeah, really, really exciting. I think it's a really exciting for customers and very exciting for us at Slack. It's a real growth lever for us, and it may be worth, if you don't mind, just explaining what it is. This new way of working doesn't need to be and shouldn't be limited to the boundaries of your organization. If a channel-based architecture and bringing applications and people together reduces the friction and drives connectivity, we should be able to do this with our partners, customers, agencies, whatever it might be. So we launched Slack Connect so that you can have a Slack channel, your external parties can have a Slack channel, and you glue them together and can collaborate kind of more effectively, I guess. Gymshark, big UK leisure and fitness brand, are using Slack Connect, for example, to securely collaborate with everybody from their suppliers to customers, creative agencies, those sorts of things without having to leave their Slack workspace. Deliveroo are doing the same, collaborating with their partners and restaurants and those types of things. I use it every day. And I think the ability to communicate with John Lewis or Ricardo directly in Slack has certainly made our lives easier. And I'd like to think it's driven greater alignment with our customers. I don't know if you've heard of RGA. They're a big global innovation agency. They believe that decision making is 30 to 40% faster when they're collaborating with their customers in Slack. The uptake, I should say, Tom, has been really positive. More than 91,000 paid customers today have adopted Slack Connect, up from 74,000 at the end of last quarter. Really significant growth. Over 950,000 endpoints now, frustratingly 50,000 short of the million, I guess, are already on Slack Connect, which is up 265% year over year. So I'm massively excited about Slack Connect, and I very much hope our customers are too.
I'm sure it won't be long until you get to that million mark.
It won't be long.
My final question for you, Stu, I want to put you on the spot a little bit and ask what you think, or what you can at least let us know that we can expect to see from Slack over, the second half of this year and into next year.
Yeah, we touched on it a little bit earlier. This focus on not just flexibility as to where we work, but flexibility as to when we work. And Slack's investing a lot in enabling customers to drive both asynchronous working and indeed to try and recreate the experience of just bumping into somebody in the office. So we released this week something called Slack Huddles, which is a really kind of low touch, low friction, can be always on audio sync or call where people can dip in and dip out. I use it a lot for office hours, for example. We've also released the ability to natively record audio, video, and share that in channel so that meetings can now happen in an asynchronous way. We've also announced just this week the ability to schedule the sending of messages, because I might choose to work at 11 o'clock one night because I had personal commitments in the day, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I want my team to get that message or feel any obligation to respond to it. So I can now schedule a send, which I think helps asynchronous work. So that's a big focus for us right now, helping to try and recreate the office experience to some extent by enabling these ad hoc conversations to take place, and drive a great focus on asynchronous work.
Okay, well, we'll definitely look forward to seeing more of these announcements as well coming out over the rest of the year. Stuart, thank you for your time today. It's been great to have you.
Thank you very much, Tom. It's great to speak to you too.
And thank you everyone for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please, as always, give us a like and a share on social media, and we'll see you next time.